I just want to say in my faith, there's no place that God is not. And God is present within us, all around us, in our biology. And in Lakota, they say Daku Wakon Ska Ska, that there is eternal, unmerited divine assistance present all times, everywhere. And I believe that. And I don't think of God as something separate, that I have to call on. That's just I'm just giving you my personal faith. The word God to me means good, the force of good in this world that I, am a channel of and that I pray to and that I'm never separate from. But that's just me. So I'm on, you're on.
Yeah, so I guess we only have we're in the 2 minute warning, but
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know how many time outs we have in the last 2 minutes. But anyways, um, so I would say I think something very important, I guess, to framework a lot of these discussions. I realize is a lot of us use similar terms but with different meanings, right? Everyone has a different meaning of faith. You guys have, and especially because we're a diverse setting. We have probably some who don't believe in God that are in this call. They're probably afraid to say it. You have others that probably believe different things. We have Christians. I'm a Muslim, so my belief in Jesus is different. Your belief in Jesus is different. All right. We have the rabbi. When we talk about, I think, defining what is faith, and then also the term God. What does God mean? What does it entail? Right? Because in Islam, for example, we have 99 names that are given to God. Right? The merciful, the extremely merciful, the compassionate, the all-knowing, the all-seeing, the all-hearing. Right? He's closer to us than our jugular veins. God is not, we believe, cannot be compared to human, cannot, he is the creator, cannot be compared to the creation, nor the creation can be brought up to the creator, and that he's only one. So I think understanding what we mean by our terms, I think helps framework further discussions. And that's why I think we should have done this. I guess I don't know if it was done, like even the concept of healing, what does it mean to heal, right? Because like for example, in our faith, if somebody's on ICU, the question arises, they ask the imam, are you allowed to release that person from life support? So this consensus of the scholars is that if you have three doctors that say or conclude that the person is brain dead, and you need at least three doctors, then it is permissible to remove the life support, right? Because then what happens is when you have a defined ruling for every single setting, right? So in Islam, we look at the weakest link. So, for example, the only way we're allowed to have relationships between men and women is through marriage. So then it says, what are the parameters of how men and women mix in corporate America, in our jobs, in our settings? How are we supposed to be sitting together? So then it defines that, but we base a lot of the rulings on the weakest link. So, for example, when we're fasting, we're not allowed to have sexual relations. So one time somebody asked the Prophet, a young man asked, "Can I, kiss my wife like on the lips as in, like that's a kiss while I'm fasting?" He said to him, "No." An older man asked the same question. He said to him, "Yes." He said, "Why'd you give different answer?" He said, "Because the older man is probably less likely to go, further, basically, than the young man, and he understood their circumstance." So in Islam, we have where you have the general ruling, right? But
Okay.
then, all right, I'll stop.
No, no, no,
Oh,
no. I said okay.
okay. Oh
I
yeah,
like
so I'll just say one more thing and then I'll stop. So and then
how
and then
how the
I
prophet
didn't actually answer the
live.
questions they asked, but
Mhm.
I think we believe that God says that God would not burden the soul with something they cannot handle. So I look at the people of Gaza. I can't handle what they handle. I have a friend, my mechanic. He lost 44 people of his family in Gaza, right? They died. And I
Mm.
was sitting with him when he's hearing the phone calls and he's hearing about their death. And they're the ones who are telling him, we're good. Our faith is strong. They're telling him, stop crying, right? So the idea is God puts us all through different tests, but knows what God puts you through it. He can also get you through it also. But I believe that all of our actions and our faith fall under five categories. So at least in Islam, we have the obligatory actions, like we have to pray 5 times a day and so forth. The prohibitions, and then you have things that are recommended to do, things that are disliked. Like for example, it's disliked in our faith to go to prayer having a smell of garlic because you're gonna like affect other people's prayer, right? Or whatever. But it's not necessarily prohibited. And then there's things that are neither permissible or impermissible, and Rabbi Becker talked about that, where God has left open for us to make like traffic lights and other things to expand our horizons in technology, mental health. So God has left a room for us to explore other things. But now, the reason I mentioned this, now alcohol in our faith is prohibited, but we're told that if I'm at Olive Garden and I'm choking to death, and the only thing available is a glass of wine, that alcohol that was prohibited in this circumstance becomes an obligation because life preservation comes before anything else. So I drink enough alcohol to survive. So based upon this condition, so then a scholar or imam or a leader, when you're asked about a room, people are not asking about the base law. They're asking about the circumstance they're in. So for example, overseas, when women give birth, they only have mostly female doctors. In America, you don't have the option. So now here, it's a little different. When it comes to interest, we're not allowed to use interest. But then I need a student loan. So the scholar would say, if you're a dentist and the only thing you can do is being a dentist, and you exhausted all options to get a student loan without interest, and you did everything you can in that particular place, based on your circumstance, you're allowed to get interest. So then we have the base law. So God knows that we all go different. Same thing with buying a house, right? You know, with interest or not interest. So I believe that to answer the question, God has outlined, we believe, a complete system way of life, of how we can live life, from using the bathroom and how we enter the bathroom, how we clean ourselves in the bathroom, right? And how we exit the bathroom. And then everyone has their own experiences. So for example, some people have dreams. Some people, like the guy, he goes in the room for 2 hours, right? Everyone is affected in different ways. But I believe God is always there for us, and He's closer, and He knows our needs more than we know ourselves. Because a lot of times we want things. God knows what we need, not what we want. And I'll stop here. But I love the discussion. I just think one day if we go into more of working, meaning like what do we mean by what do we mean by God? What do we mean by faith? What does it mean to be like, I think these terms, and I learned a lot personally, right? From the mental health, like when Rod talks about trauma, or Pastor Walker used to talk about it, or when we talk about suicide, we talk about. So I learned the insights of mental health from a lot of the people in here, from the terms and what they mean, and how to be more sensitive. So a lot of times I'm very sensitive even to speak about religion, because I realize you have to kind of be aware of your surroundings. So thank you for your time, everyone.
All right. So that was fantastic discussion. I'm gonna say a few more things, and I'm gonna turn it over to Dr. Ailes. I wanna propose a subject for next week, and it was based on something I saw come across the chat, and something just clicked in my head. Before I became a Christian, I thought that spiritual leaders were perfect. That y'all didn't cuss, y'all didn't drink, y'all didn't argue, y'all didn't raise your voice, y'all didn't party, you didn't gamble, you didn't do any of those things. That's what I thought, right? So I know that there are millions of people who think that way today, just like I thought as a babe, if you will. What are the expectations of a spiritual leader? Can we have that conversation next week? What is it that your word says that you are how you're supposed to live, not only in public, but also in private? I would love to have that conversation if everybody's okay with that. And I'd have to ask Dr. Ailes first, and then ask you guys. Dr. Ailes?
Sure, I think that's a excellent topic that we should come back with for next week, as long as it's okay with Rabbi Becker and Imam Hassan and the rest.
Y'all good with that for next week?
Also, Imam Hassan, we had a series. Now, did we complete the series in that what you had proposed? I believe it was in December.
I think we completed it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, then yes. Now there's a couple of things in the chat too, Rod, that I just want to. So Pamela with 3 A's. Did you want to come offline, off mic, Pamela, and say what you said?
Oh, I was just saying, that faith really is, believing in God, and God gave doctors and all of that knowledge as well. So just making note of that as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much.